To reintroduce Leigh.
Thanks very much, Lisa. And as has been mentioned plenty of times now, this is a project that's really put its money where its mouth is when it comes to getting patient involvement, and no less so than actually allowing patients to become involved in designing and leading the evaluation. Next slide, please. So why are we actually doing an evaluation? Well, because this is actually a brand new innovation. We have knowledge that in the last few years, shared medical appointments have been conducted in the United States for acute conditions. And then about 3 years ago, Australian researchers pointed to the benefits of such a structure for actually providing chronic care. However, there is no examples of this kind of virtual group review being used other than for diabetes. So this is a brand new innovation, and it's therefore really important that we research it to ensure we understand fully the benefits of it and to make sure that we are not potentially creating any harm for our patients. The work is academically underpinned. I'm doing the research under the supervision of UCL, the Social Research Institute, who are really excited about the impact of this research for not only application across the NHS, but the potential to use it globally. And the focus of the evaluation is to really evaluate the patient and staff experience. The focus is very much on the patient experience, patient satisfaction with the format, with their encounters, and we want to understand from staff how they felt the patient experience was. So we're less interested in your view of it as a working format and more in terms of how you can empathise to understand how the patients have benefited from this. So it's really going to allow us a great deal of insight into the patient experience, which will then allow us to adapt the process for future applications. So we want to consider how it can be used for other tumour types, how it can be used for people who are receiving palliative or end-of-life care, and particularly for other age groups, maybe namely our teenagers, who are much more savvy online than many other groups. Next slide, please. So the evaluation is going to focus on three key areas. We're going to be, first of all, thinking about the people directly involved in each session to see how they viewed the sessions. But then we want to think slightly wider about what are the overall impacts of participating in that kind of consultation format. And then we want to start to evaluate how we can use this for the wider population and how we can start to transfer it to make it relevant and pertinent to other cancer survivors or people at end-of-life care. Next slide, please. So, as we've made clear, this is a really good attempt at co-production, because right from the start, the patients have decided the nature of the research, the focus of the questions that we are going to be carrying out. And what patients said is we have to get those subjective individual perceptions of those experiences. We don't want tick box exercises, we don't want surveys, we really want to get to grips with what each patient has gone through. And that in-depth knowledge will allow us to shape the future service and really understand how our patients benefited from participating in those groups. So it was decided that the research had to be qualitative in nature, and we really listened to the patients in determining what those qualitative questions would be. Next slide, please. So we're obviously dealing with specific cohorts, but randomised groups within those cohorts. We will be evaluating the experiences of patients and staff, as I've already mentioned. It will be a relatively small sample because what we are conducting is one-to-one, in-depth, semi-structured interviews. We know there is information that we want to gather. But much like the CCRs themselves, we also want to allow the patient's agency to talk about what was important to them in those sessions, so we can increase our understanding. We will be offering the interviews via telephone or online, so we can be as convenient as possible to fit around treatment schedules or other life commitments, to make the logistics manageable to the patients and to empower the patients to have some control over that setting. And we will also be contacting staff. And can I urge you, if you are approached to participate in an interview, to please seriously consider taking part, because that's what will really allow us to make this a much better working process for everybody that's involved. Next slide, please. At the heart of everything, we have the issues and ethical considerations. This has gone through full UCL ethics approval, because what we need to think about is we are asking people to share their experiences of potentially the most traumatic time of their lives and during that most traumatic time of their lives. So it's really important we do what we can to dispel anxiety and discomfort by offering anonymity, confidentiality, time to talk, and the ability to withdraw at any point. But what it's also really important that we do is actually listen to our patients. Instead of just saying we've listened to our patients and that being enough, what we are acknowledging is that patients are going to have to give their time and their emotional energy to participate in this evaluation. And we therefore have an onus to really listen to what our patients are telling us and to act upon that in terms of shaping future formats of the consultation. But furthermore, we know as researchers that insider status is huge. And when people who've had a cancer diagnosis interview patients who are undergoing that experience themselves, it gives us what's known as insider status, where the researched feel able to establish a relationship much more quickly and are much more likely to open up. So we hope a further benefit of leading the evaluation this way is that we will get a much more deep insight into patient experiences. So as I say, if you are contacted, please seriously contemplate participating, because this is what's really going to provide us with the information that we need to make this a success. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Leigh, and thank you to all our contributors to this webinar this afternoon. There's been comments rather than questions in the chat. So